Good evening, and welcome to the How and Why of Patch Management. My name is Scott Parker. I'm a product manager here at N-able, and tonight we will be talking about patch management, how it affects your customers, and why centralized patch management is a good solution or the best solution for those customers. This is myself, Scott Parker. I'm a product manager here at N-able. I've been here for over 3 years at this point. Currently, I'm the product manager for patch management and report manager. So let's get right down to it. Why patch management? An interesting Adobe security bulletin report came out a couple of years ago, and that one particularly caught my attention, being someone who's very deeply ingrained in patch management. 59 security bulletins came out. They addressed 399 vulnerabilities from Adobe alone. So just within the Adobe product, in a course of 1 year, there were 59 security bulletins and almost 400 vulnerabilities. Just that fact alone should express to both yourself and your clients how important a centralized patch management system is. Missing even one security patch in a product such as an Adobe or Java could lead to widespread vulnerability within an environment. And of course, this is something your clients don't want, and of course, you certainly don't want to support within your client base. It's vitally important that you stay on top of patch management, have visibility into these types of patches, and the ability to centrally manage this across your client base. Doing this one-on-one for each client, each individual desktop or machine is very difficult to maintain, of course, as we all know. And so this is what a product like N-central can bring to the table for you, is the ability to really manage this top-down across your customer base. So what does full managed patch give you? Well, this is going to give you secure devices, because we're going to be able to release OS security patches. We're going to be able to release application security patches for things such as Java and Adobe products. It's going to allow us to bring to the table standardized versioning across our customer base, so you don't end up in a situation where some people have Internet Explorer 10, others have Internet Explorer 11, and there's no conformity across your customers. It also will allow you to prevent people from installing things that they shouldn't have. So, for example, if you have a software that's running on an Internet Explorer 10 base or a Java base, it's going to prevent your customers from getting warnings and pop-ups and things that prompt them to go out and install other products, a newer version of Internet Explorer, a newer version of Java, and causing themselves, and of course you as the managed service provider, problems. It'll also prevent you or your client base from receiving unstable patching. Of course, if individualized systems, desktops, servers, etc. are set to just automatically patch, there's always the risk that you're going to download that new patch from Microsoft and it's not going to be, one of the good ones. Essentially, you're going to end up with a patch that's going to cause your systems problems, and you had no way to really prevent that from being rolled out across your platform, and now you're out there trying to roll it back across hundreds, if not thousands, of systems. So let's talk a little bit about Patch Manager and N-central. How does Patch Manager work? Well, what it gives you is from the N-central console itself, you're going to have full control over patch management. And so this is going to, there's some steps that you'll be taking within the N-central system, and we're going to demo that a little bit later for you. Essentially, you're going to configure a local cache within your managed environments. So if you have N-central, you've already rolled out your probe, you've already detected devices and onboarded them into the system. They're already managed devices. We're simply going to configure a local patch cache, completely controllable through the N-central UI. We're going to schedule patching across all of these systems. We're going to be able to approve and decline patches within the environment, including doing things like approving for removal. And we're going to leverage the automation within N-central to fully automate things. So, for example, in some customer environments, perhaps you are not particularly sensitive to automated patching. You'll have the ability in an N-central product to automate, for example, critical and security patches only, perhaps across certain specific products. So you may choose to automate for Microsoft products, and you may choose critical and security. You might do that because day to day you're likely going to release that stuff automatically. There really is no reason to hold it back. These environments aren't that sensitive. Great. You've just taken all those hours out of your day where you would have had to go through approving these patches through something like WSUS. Instead, you're doing them through N-central. The system is automatically doing that work for you. So as new patches roll through, the system's going to identify their critical and security patches, their Microsoft patches that meet your requirements. It's going to auto-approve them, release them to your environment, and install them on the schedule you've set. We also are going to have the ability to pre-download patch data. So if you want to prime the system, as it were, you're going to be able to tell N-central to, on your approval, download and pre-stage all of your patches across your devices. So then when it is time to upgrade, or the update is that much faster. Of course, we're doing all of this remotely. So through one N-central console from your basement at home, your laptop on the road, you're going to be able to patch all of your customers right then and there. Now, we also offer third-party patching through N-central. Third-party patching is going to allow you to save the end user's time and ensure that your customer devices are secure and up to date across a multitude of different products. And what we have done is we've looked across all the products that were available out there for third-party update, and through consultation with our user base, we've decided on the most prevalent products in the industry, picked those as your top, I believe it's about 38 or so products at the moment, and you're able to patch that now through third-party patching. And that's including things like your QuickTimes, your Yahoo, your Adobe products, including Flash and Reader, all the typical things you're going to find on a desktop, and including, of course, Java. Now, on top of this, all this patch management is fantastic, but if your customers don't know what you're doing, obviously they're not seeing the value of that hard work. So built into N-central, we of course have patch reporting available for you in very detailed, granular fashion or in high-level executive summary type. So for example, what you're seeing here is something out of Report Manager. This is that high-level executive summary type. It's very comprehensive, but it's user-friendly, and it really shows off how effective you are, how many patches you've released into the infrastructure, how many were successful, how many failed, pinpoints the devices that are having issues so that you then can go out and resolve them. So if there is a system that was installing .NET, for example, and .NET had an issue and kind of died out before it was able to complete, you're going to be able to see that that system has a system problem, and you're going to be able to get out there and resolve it. But this way you're able to manage hundreds, if not thousands, of devices and only deal with the outliers that have minor issues. And what we're going to do today is I'm actually going to take you through patch management in N-central so you can have a look at how easy it is to use and how easy it is to configure and how really easy it is to release patches through the interface itself. So we're going to talk about the ease of configuration. We're going to look at some of the scheduling options in the system. We're going to talk about third-party applications and some of the reporting that's available. So here we have our N-central console. And if any of you haven't seen N-central 10 yet, this is the latest release of N-central. N-central 10 brought to the table some brand new UI tweaks. We're really looking at a lot of new reactive type features. For example, we have a new toolbox that allows you to go straight in and interact with printers, interact directly with the command prompt in the system, move files around, start and stop processes and services, edit the registry. Of course, we're going to be able to view problems at a glance from the active issues view, including patch issues, and you're going to be able to drill into specific devices and manage them from the all devices view. Today we're going to be talking about patch management, so let's go on down to the patch management section under configuration, patch management. So the first thing you're going to do, I mentioned we're going to create a patch cache. So under patch caching, you will see the probes that you have deployed to that environment, and you'll be able to tell on the right-hand side here whether or not patch caching is configured. So each of these have a patch cache enabled and configured at the moment. We're going to be able to go in and make adjustments to that. I would typically recommend that when you deploy your first probe, it is going to set up a default cache. You will probably want to go into this section here under the probe, under caching, and make some basic changes. So for example, we have a maximum size of 20 gigabytes here for our patch cache, and we have an automatic pruning system as well. So that patch cache will never overflow a disk. It'll always be aware of the disk size and always make sure it prunes before the disk reaches maximum volume. Assuming the disk is a fairly good size, here I've told it to refuse to go any further than 20 gig. So as it gets to 20 gigabytes, it'll keep the newer patches and remove the older patches. So it'll clean things up for us. We also have the ability to move that patch cache. So if I don't want to keep it there on that server, I'm going to be able to put it in any UNC path within the environment. So if I want to put it on another server within the environment, as long as I can reach it, not a problem. It'll automatically create that patch cache and then immediately begin moving all my cache data for me. So I don't have to take care of that. The system will just logically figure that out for me. You're going to typically want a 20 to 40 gig patch cache, depending on the size of the environment and how often devices come in and out of the environment. Typically 20 is going to be okay for a smaller environment. We're talking 20 or so devices, maybe 30. As soon as you run into things like perhaps laptops and devices that tend to move in and out of the environment on an irregular basis, I would probably increase that patch cache, because when those devices come back and they're able to reach that probe, I want that probe to be able to immediately start handing their patches off and not have to go out and re-download older patches that may have been cleaned up from the weeks before because the device was out and about. So we're going to set our patch cache. Once we have our patch cache enabled and ready to go, and typically we're going to want to set that patch cache up in the same environment as the probe and as all the devices are. We're going to then move on to profiles. So we would create a patch profile. The profile is going to act both as the control of those systems that are under patch management. It's going to act as an enabler, so kind of that turnkey on-off switch for patch management. It's also going to control the detection schedule and installation schedule. So we're going to call this our test schedule. Here we have the ability to change what the pop-up messages to your user look like. So do we want users to see any kind of patch information or no? Do we essentially nag them? Do we want it to remind them that they need to get their patches installed or not? Do we want to reach out externally for updates if the local probe cache becomes unavailable? For example, laptops, I would typically build a profile for laptops that would be doing this. So they'd be going out to, if that laptop's at home or away on business and it's patch time, well, I don't want it to just skip its patch routine. So I'm going to let it know that it's okay to go to Windows Update and directly and grab that information. Here we have an option to tell the system how long we're going to prompt for. So do we want to prompt for simply 5 minutes or prompt for a full 60 minutes before continuing with patch management and give the user a lot of time to really get in there and give us the opinion on whether or not they would like to go ahead with patch management. After that, you'll see Windows Update Access. This is a control which will essentially allow us to prevent local users from accessing Windows Update on their own. Of course, if they access Windows Update on their own, they're going to have the ability to essentially circumvent patch management, go straight out, download whatever they want. Well, typically we're not going to want that. So in this case, we're going to say it's either allowed for all users and applications or limited to administrators and applications only. And what this means is when a local user logs in and tries to do patch, it'll tell them it's administered, prevented by their administrator. They'll be prompted for administrator credentials. So if the technician's on site, he still has the ability to get in and do what he needs to do. Or restricted to in-central activity only, which pretty much locks the system down, and there's very, very few, very small windows where the customer would ever be able to even get to Windows Update, let alone get any patches done. So essentially that locks off patch management for them. Here's that ability to pre-download patches, so download before scheduled installation. And installing patches when the device is powered off, so that if the device is in sleep mode or hibernation, we're going to wake it up and go ahead with patch management. Now the second piece here is this patch detection schedule. So this is how often is the system going to go look to see what patches are available. So typically we'll do this twice a day. I would usually set it for, I usually personally prefer custom. I would say maybe a couple of times, so about midnight, and I might also do it at noon, for example. Every day of the year and every month. The last piece of the puzzle is the patch installation schedule. Now we have two options here. We can either install the patches as soon as they're approved, or we can install the patches at a scheduled time. So in my case, I'd prefer a scheduled time, and I'm probably going to again choose custom. And seeing as I'm checking for patches at midnight, I'm going to install patches at 12:45 a.m. I don't want to do it every day though. I'm going to select certain days. So I think I'm going to go with Friday. So 12:45 a.m. would be really Thursday night. So we'll pick that. And so there is my full profile ready to go. I'm going to save that, and here we have my test schedule. Now, of course, we're going to be able to go to individual devices. Let's do it this way. We'll go to individual devices. We can turn on patch management very readily by simply selecting a device. We're going to be able to go to the properties screen of the system, and we're going to be able to turn on patch management. Here's our device here. We're going to want to go to this device under Settings, Patch Management, and Enable Patch Management. We're going to be able to choose our profile. And in this case, I'd like to enable third-party patching. So this is the choice to do Javas, Adobes, that sort of thing. And we'll hit Save. So that commits that change to the system. Now I've done that fairly granularly. I've gone right to the device and I've actually clicked that particular device and set it up on that particular device. We also have the ability in our system to use something called a rule. A rule would allow me to approach multiple devices at a time and have it in an ongoing fashion address new devices. So for example, here I've turned on patch management. You can see that in the all devices view, but I've done it on one single device. So with a rule, I would be able to say, let's target all my laptops and all my workstations. I'm going to turn on patch management and third party. And by creating that rule for perhaps customer X, so lab devices in this case, it would then analyze any new systems coming in, whether they're laptops or workstations, and automatically deploy patch to them. So I don't have to remember to go back and do that time and time again. So using a rule is more efficient than what I've just done here on a granular basis, but I wanted you to see it kind of top to bottom. Here we can see on this particular device patch status is red, which means currently there are some issues with patching on this device. I'm just going to dig on into it, and I can see here that we have some patches that are not approved for the system, and nothing is actually approved at this point. It gives me a good topical overview of what's going on. I can see if any patches are installed with errors. It hasn't absorbed its patch schedule because I've just given it its profile, but it will in a few minutes, and it'll be good to go. So once we have our systems under patch management, how easy is it to get our patches deployed? Well, let's just scroll down to approve and decline patches. Approving and declining patches is actually very simple. So you have a choice here to do by device, so picking certain devices, or to do it by patch. In my case, I'm going to do it by patch. As you can see, we're in the patch approval console here. It's telling me whether or not things are needed and what kind of approvals exist. I'm going to bring up the filter from the right. I'm going to say I would like to know about critical updates, security updates, and only things that are needed and aren't currently approved. Now here we have some very important patches that haven't been released out to the environment. You can see it's color-coded and highlighted. We can dig into individual patches where we can get an explanation. We can hot link directly to the Microsoft KB article if we so choose. We're going to be able to simply take the things we want to patch. Next. We're going to approve it for install. Next. There's our existing approval of no approval. I'm going to finish. Now it is approved for install. Done. It was that easy. I've released those two patches out into the wild. I can do it by entire system, so from the service organizational level top down, or I can do it from individual customer levels, or I can go in and work device by device, if that is what I'd like to do. Really giving you deep granular control, and with a filter like this you really can granularly dig down to the things that you want to work with. You can also save that filter in the event that one of your other team members might be using it on a regular basis. So you may go in, build a complex filter, and allow your technicians rather to use that. That, in a nutshell, is patch management. After that, really there's not a lot to do. I would personally automate a lot of these. I would add an automation rule for perhaps for critical and security updates, as I mentioned. But other than that, patch management set up, working, and if I use automation, I'll have even less to do. Setting up an automated approval like this would automatically approve all critical and all security, which are Microsoft designations, so we're really just approving Microsoft stuff here across all my systems as new patches are detected on a nightly basis. So really, we have certainly many clients who simply sit back, let patch management do its thing, and really almost never touch it other than going and producing reports for their customers. We have others that, of course, granularly release things into more sensitive environments, such as larger server environments, deeper virtual environments, and that sort of thing. Now, reporting. We're obviously going to want to show the results of what we've just done with patch management. There's a few ways to do that. One of the ways a lot of clients tend to do it is with a dashboard, just for their own internal use. So here we have dashboards for patch management, and what's showing me is all the devices with patch management enabled and what's going on with each of them. So you can see this one here has some critical updates that are waiting to happen. We can see our agents online and working. We also have some tools, of course, that we can use across these systems, and we have the ability to jump in and use remote control. That's one way to visualize how patches are going, and certainly the way most technicians do it. Now, if you're looking to report out to a customer, of course, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. Now, in this particular server, because it is a demo server, I don't have a whole lot of devices, but let's grab one from worldwide importers. I think would be a good choice. So we're going to jump down to our customer level for worldwide importers. We're going to jump down to reporting, grab the approvals and installations report. And we're going to ask it to show me basically everything. So we'll say, show me everything that's happened in the last little while. So we'll go back a week or so. Now, hopefully there's been enough going on in this environment that I have something to show off today. There we go. We can see our Windows servers, Windows workstations, and laptops, what's going on with them, what patches have been released into them. There's that one patch we just approved for install, and what the results were. A really nice report that I can now export in PDF, present to my client, really give them that full overview of everything that's happened in this environment, showing them that I'm taking care of it, all their devices are covered, all the devices are up to date, nothing critical or security is outstanding. Now these of course can be automated. I can schedule this report to automatically come out to either directly to my customer or to my internal support team. So really it's a holistic patch system with WSUS list patching, so it's completely ingrained within N-central. You don't need to manage a WSUS server. I'm going to be able to do all of that directly through N-central, directly out to all my devices from a single console. Now I seem to have some questions here. Let's jump into some of these questions and see if we can't get some of them answered for you. So I was being asked if in third-party patch, if the application you patch is not installed, does it install it? So in this particular case, no. The system that we have that you've seen here is only going to update things like Java and Adobe, and only within its own version number. So that way you don't accidentally update someone from version 7 to version 8 and perhaps cause problems within their system. So it prevents you from doing that. But certainly you can upgrade from 7.1 all the way to 7.9, and that'll all work through N-central. Now, of course, with N-central, you can push and execute third-party software as well. So if you choose to go out and install, the Javas or Adobes of the world, as long as it's an MSI or executable and it's a silent install package, you're going to be able to get out there and do that. A question was, are you able to push one-off patches immediately? So good news, if you look at our blog, you will see that there's a large blog post about what's coming down the pipe, and absolutely that is something that is on the horizon. I'll take a quick look there for you. So if you go to blogs.n-able.com, you're going to find about halfway down the screen something on patch management beyond N-central 10. And one of the first things is going to be patch on demand. So have a look through that, and those are some of those new and upcoming features we are working on. Will a laptop user be able to access the cache over VPN? Yes, if the cache is available, the system will definitely try it. If it's having issues with the cache, though, it'll go out to Windows Update and do its thing through that if you've chosen that in the profile. What if the customer computer is not on during the patch schedule? When are the patches installed? Well, the patches would be installed the next time your schedule comes around. So some people set a couple of patch schedules a week. Again, on the blog, you're going to see one of the new features where you have in the works is patch on boot. And that will be coming along shortly. Yeah, I think we've got everything we can do today in the time I've got. So that said, well, that takes us to the end of patch management, the how and why of patch management. Thank you very much for attending today. I really hope you got some useful value out of it. And if you have any questions, of course, you can reach out to your sales engineer, and they'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. This presentation is recorded and will be made available to you as well. Thank you very much, and have a great night.